Hello, in this video I want to show you how to create a legend that gets updated in a loop. So let's say, for example, you want to draw the sine function for different frequencies. So your function is y equals sine of some frequency times x, and this frequency is changing from a list. And whenever you plot that function, you want to generate a legend for it, which says y equals sine of w times x, and this w gets changed, and then you add it to your legend. And also changing the color of each plot according to a predefined color map. So let's say if you use the jet color map, can you choose the color from this color map jet for each one of these plots? So the first frequency, you do the first color maybe, or one of the colors of this color map, and then the next frequency you choose a different color, and keep going on, because this jet color map has 256 rows. Each row has 3 values corresponding to the RGB values for a color. So you can go and pick some of those rows and use them for the color of these plots. Let me show you the end result, and then I'll discuss the code for it. So here, if we run this, here is what we get. Okay, and you can see here w equals 1 sine of x, sine of 1x, 3x, 5, 7, and 9x. You see the frequencies are clearly changing. And as you go from the blue toward this kind of dark brown, you see the frequencies are constantly increasing. And so here you clearly see that the legend is updated and the colors are going according to the jet color map. Okay, so, and also the legend is placed outside the graph, the axis, because it's too busy. So even if I use best, there will be really no blank area for the best location. So I would rather just place it outside. So how do I do that? Well, here you see I created my x variable. I created the range of frequencies. I use a color map jet, and then choose a variable c and set it equal to my color map. Now the legends that I will update one by one. So the first one is like y equals sine of 1x, then 3x, then 5x. I start them using a cell. So it's going to be a cell with one row, but the number of columns is going to be the length of this w. So like 1 by 5 in this case. So I start an empty cell 1 by 5, and then each one of the entries of that cell will be a text, like for example here, y equals sine of 1x, y equals sine of 3x, and at the end I pass that text, which is all of these cells, I pass it to the command legend. Okay, so this text, as I said, at the end of the day, it will be like some cell where the first entry is y equals sine of 1x, right? And then y equals sine of 3x, and then some others, and finally y equals sine of 9 times x. So it's going to be something like this at the end, but I'm adding these guys one by one in a for loop. So I say for I equals 1 to the length of w for 5 entries, go ahead and plot x and sine of wii times x with some line width, and look here how I choose my color. This C, as I said, is 256 rows, but I only have 5 values. So if I just pick the first 5 rows of this color map, the colors will be very similar to each other, okay? Because the colors in this color map gradually change from blue to the red. So I don't want to go and say simply get me C row II and all columns, right? Because that means the first, second, all the way to the 5th row of that color map, and that means they all will be very different shades of blue. So what I do is this. I multiply that II by 256 and divide it by length of W. What am I doing? Basically, I'm breaking down that 256 to the number of data that I have, 5. So each one of them is kind of like 50, 51. and I jump 51 row at a time. So my first one is gonna be like row 51, the next one is gonna be like row 100, the next one is 150, the next one is 200, the next one is 250. So I'm jumping so many rows at a time here, and since the row index should be an integer, I use the fix command to make sure it's an integer. And then I do a hold on so the plots are on the top of each other, and you see I'm generating the text for my legend using the sprintf command. So I say sprintf y equals sign of %dx and %d or %u, you might say, because these are all these wii's are all positive numbers, positive integers. Then that %u is going to be replaced simply by wii, by the frequency. So I generate the text and with this sprintf and assign it to the ith entry of my cell called txt. So at the end, after all the plots are done, I can pass it to the legend. And for location, I use northeast but outside. Okay, so if you add this word outside, it is gonna create it outside the legend. And look, it's this beautiful graph. Okay, so not only I picked my colors from a color space and I changed them under my control instead of just passing some 3 random numbers. So here I can see them changing kind of like a rainbow color. Also, I generated my legend and updated it, all in a for loop. So hopefully this video was useful to you, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you.